It's 11th of August 25, it's Monday, and I'm sure you all want to hear my opinion on Trump's deal with Nvidia and AMD. He's going to let them keep selling chips to China for a 15% tariff. So the USA is getting 15%, and he's saying this is a good deal. It seems to be a new and unique deal for where an export is getting a tariff on it. But this has been the CEO of Nvidia's idea, I think, basically, because it was going to be a ban. Don't know if it was already because of security concerns, but Trump's met the Nvidia CEO 5 times since January 25. AMD as well. I don't know if the two companies are connected, but now that I've thought about it, it just sounds like you're giving away security for money. You know, it may seem really good for USA. We're getting 15%. I think it's expected to reach maybe 3 billion, but I've also seen like 24 billion a year dollars. But that's not really anything when your economy's like trillions. I don't know how many trillion America is, but yeah, let's look further into it with Google Gemini. So my first impression is it's another bum deal from Trump, the deal maker, who I think is the worst deal maker ever. Is the worst bull S, but that makes him the best bull S because his talk is so rubbish that it just uh, doubles down, triples down, and he's found that people just give in really. But yeah, on this deal anyway, is it a unique deal? I asked. Yes, this is widely considered a unique and unprecedented deal in the history of US export controls. Because this is an export. You're putting a tariff on an export. I mean, it is ironic because I would imagine in the old days, the socialists of the UK in the 70s would be possibly happy. Probably not with an export, but tariffs and imports, which is Trump's other thing, the only thing he seems to be bothered about in terms of economy. Because he just come up with this simple answer. It's the opposite of Reaganomics, where everything was meant to be free trade. Just as comical, but I've given up, really. There's no point even. This is what happens. I've seen this in Big Brother actually. When somebody's totally out of control, everyone just gives up. Just they don't even try and reason or debate or argue with them. They just they just give up. Really, that's what it's like with Trump, really, isn't it? I mean, I would have voted for him on one issue as a protest vote because really, I think you have no choice at this time, and that's the most important thing in the West. But as a person, I think it's crazy, really. And will this work? Yeah, historically, the US government's approach to controlling exports has been a binary system. A company either receives a license to sell a product to a foreign country or it doesn't. And I think this is to do with security, really. So there's no fee or revenue sharing component to the export. This is the first time this has been done. A former US export control official called the deal unprecedented and dangerous. I mean, to me, it seems like you're giving up your security for money, supposedly 15% to the US government. But if it's a security thing, a security concern is a security danger. I mean, it is looking like China is going to be an enemy. I mean, nobody in the world should be an enemy. Everyone should be happy with their country, but it looks like China's going to sort of try and dominate for reasons unknown. Just ego, really. Russia seems to be in there, but Russia's a small player, really, compared to China. India's going to be a big player. We don't know how that's going to go. To me, I think that's a bit worrying as well. And don't forget, like the 90s and the early 2000s, the West tried to welcome China and Russia, etc. And I don't blame them for trying. It's become obvious that they're ego-based countries, and well, the leaderships anyway. But so instead of a place where all countries are the West, really. I mean, if you think of Japan and Germany, straight after World War II, they became our allies, which is incredible. That could happen with China. I think about Russia, but China and Russia think differently. It really is a tragedy, and it's going to probably get worse as time goes by. It really is a tragedy. So the deal structure is unusual because it links a national security focused policy with a direct financial benefit for the government. Yeah, I think it's a bad thing. Tolls for a price rather than absolute limitations. Because apparently these chips, they're the best, even though they're not the cutting edge chips. They are the best out there, I think, really. So that's why China wants them. Eventually, China will just copy them or something and come up with their own. But, well, the Trump administration has previously tied concessions on trade or tariffs to financial returns. For example, with a golden share in the US steel acquisition by Nippon Steel. This specific type of revenue sharing for an export license is a new development. It represents a significant shift from the traditional model of export control and has raised questions about the purpose of such controls and the legal framework that covers them. I mean, in principle, I'm not totally against tariffs. Probably more import. I've not really thought of export. This is a brand new thing. But yeah, money. If if society can get a benefit from the companies, I think that's a good thing. How you do that, I don't know. But let's look at this more. I was just asking, did I forget to stop there? I was just asking whether the Trump deal is good for the USA. So Nvidia and AMD will pay the US government 50% of the revenue raised from their sales of certain advanced AI chips to China. The arrangement is a condition for the companies to receive export licenses, allowing them to resume selling these specific chips, Nvidia's H20 and AMD's MI308, to the Chinese market. So it's AI chips, and apparently they were banned. I wonder if it was Biden that banned them. This deal, but I don't blame anybody, probably a security concern. The deal has generated significant discussion. The US Constitution forbids export taxes. So the Constitution apparently says it. Trump's just ignored that, basically. And the CEO of Nvidia, it sounds like a Chinese name. He's probably Chinese American, but, you know, just got to take him at trustworthy level. Well, I don't know. Yeah, people are saying either the chips are a national security risk, in which case they shouldn't be sold, or they are not, in which case the tax is an unnecessary penalty. However, others view, it'd be interesting what others view the deal as a pragmatic approach that allows American companies to compete in a key global market while the US government receives a direct financial benefit. I think Nvidia might be the biggest company in the world now, I'm not sure. They're the biggest share company, public company. It follows an earlier period when the sales of these advanced chips to China were halted due to national security concerns. The companies themselves have indicated they will follow the rules set by the government to remain competitive in the global market. And then I asked her, how much will it raise a year? It could generate over $3 billion for the UK government annually. The figure is based on a forecast that Nvidia's H20 chip sales in China could reach around $23 billion this year, and that AMD's MI308 chip sales could bring in a further $800 million, with a 15% share of that revenue. The US government's portion would be substantial. So we'll see how that goes. Security concern. Yes, the core of the security debate centres on the purpose of export controls. Initially, these advanced chips were halted due to national security concerns. It might even been Trump that halted them, that the technology could be used to enhance China's military and AI capabilities. Critics argue that if the chips truly pose a national security risk, they should not be sold to China at all, regardless of any financial arrangement. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Furthermore, critics worry that this deal undermines the credibility of the entire export control regime. If a company can simply pay a fee to bypass national security restrictions, it could encourage other nations to view US export controls as bargaining chips rather than genuine security measures. The companies and supporters of the deal counter that the chips in question are less powerful than their most advanced models and were specifically designed to comply with previous US export rules. They argue that restricting sales could backfire by pushing China to accelerate its own development of domestic chip technology, ultimately making the US lose its technological leadership in a critical global market. Yeah, I mean, the other thing I asked that apparently, I can't find it now, but somebody said that China was actually a bit worried because they might the USA might be able to put a hack into the chips and make them not work or whatever, Because we've heard this from China. Because remember, Huawei were going to, what was it they were going to do? They were going to, I think a Chinese company were going to build one of their nuclear plants in Britain, and it was Boris Johnson that was wanting to do that or whatever. Eventually he decided against it. Probably it'd be impossible now. That was about 6, 7 years ago. Also, there was some sort of phone ban. There was a Huawei phone was banned in the West, basically, from Google Play Store and everything. Yeah. Well, that's it really. To me, it sounds like probably I'd be against it, but yeah, there you go. So, and this is a unique thing, taxing an export for the first time. Maybe they should tax, Google or I don't know, Facebook, Twitter. Apparently, Americans living overseas still have to pay tax in America as if they're still living there. And Dale Vince has said you should do the same for British citizens, and he's worth about 120 million apparently. He's one of our 100 top taxpayers. So yeah, it's just interesting. But to put a tariff on an export, it's unprecedented. So oh well, let's see how it goes. I'm not totally against something like that when it's coming to do with big, massive companies. I think Nvidia is the biggest company of all. Yeah, as a public share, public company, it's the most valuable company in the world by market capitalization. Its market cap has surpassed that of long-time leaders like Microsoft and Apple. However, the top spot is constantly shifting. I mean, I was amazed to hear this, to hear that a hardware company, really, well, it's soft, but they are actually making a product. Well, so is Apple, I suppose, with the iPhone, and Tesla even. But number one is Nvidia, and market caps. 2 is Microsoft, 3 Apple, 4 Alphabet, that's Google, and 5 Amazon. The rapid ascent of Nvidia to the top position is a testament to the immense value the market is placing on its role in the AI boom. The demand for its graphics processing units, which are crucial for AI development and deployment, has been the primary driver of this growth. Yeah, it's actually the GPUs it makes, isn't it? I don't think it actually makes the chips. I don't know. I thought Apple mainly got its chips from China, but possibly it was bringing making factories in the US because of Trump. I don't know. I'll just look at. That's another question. How big is Nvidia? Nvidia, as of August 25, its market cap is approximately $4.46 trillion, often contending for top spot. Its market cap has seen an explosive growth, increasing by over 35% in the last 12 months alone. Does that mean this year, over the last 12 months, it's made 35%? And reported revenue last year of $60.9 billion, a staggering 126% increase from the previous year. So, it's pretty big. And while I'm here, I might as well ask about Apple. Is it bringing the iPhone manufacturing back to the USA? While Apple is making significant new investments in US manufacturing, particularly for key components, it is not currently moving its final iPhone assembly back to the US. What is happening? Increased US investment. Apple has announced a major new commitment of an additional $100 billion, raising its total investment in the US to $600 billion over the next 4 years. This is part of a new American manufacturing program. Component manufacturing investment is focused on expanding the US supply chain for critical iPhone components. For example, Apple is committing $2.5 billion to produce all of the cover glass for iPhones and Apple watches in a Corning facility in Kentucky. This means that 100% of the cover glass for these products sold worldwide will be made in the USA for the first time. Other key parts, the company is also working with other US partners like Coherent for VCSEL lasers used in Face ID and using chips from facilities like TSMC's plant in Arizona. Why final assembly is not moving? Complex supply chain. The iPhone manufacturing process is incredibly complex, involving thousands of parts from hundreds of suppliers in dozens of countries. The supply chain is deeply entrenched in Asia, particularly in China. Lack of infrastructure and workforce. Experts and even Apple CEO Tim Cook have pointed out that the US lacks the necessary infrastructure, skilled workforce and specialised tooling engineers to handle the massive scale of iPhone assembly, cost and scale. Moving the entire final assembly process to the US would be a monumental and costly undertaking. Analysts estimate it would cost tens of billions of dollars and take years to accomplish. The cost of a US-made iPhone would also be significantly higher, which could make the product beyond affordable for many consumers. And to shift to other Asian countries, in response to geopolitical pressures and tariffs, Apple has been diversifying its manufacturing out of China, but the primary relocation has been to other countries in Asia, such as India and Vietnam, rather than the US. I'm just asking it, is this because of Trump? And I got the answer really well. Yes, the Trump admin has been a major factor and a significant driver of Apple's decisions regarding its manufacturing investments in the US. How the influence has worked, tariff threats and incentives. He said he would impose at least 25% on iPhones sold in the US if they are not made in America. So it makes you wonder, does tariffs work then, Socialists in the 70s would have probably said yes, Jeremy Corbyn and that. He has also threatened to impose a 100% tariff on imported semiconductors with an exemption for companies that manufacture in the US. So they would be incredibly costly for Apple, which relies on a global supply chain. America First agenda. Americans' recent announcements align with the America First economic agenda of the Trump admin, which... So, have we got to thank Trump for that then? I don't know. So, The focus on producing key components like cover glass and semiconductors in the US is a clear response to this political pressure. A savvy solution, while Apple is not moving final iPhone assembly, its decision to significantly increase its investment in US component manufacturing is seen by many as a savvy solution to the pressure from the White House. So, in short, the Trump admin's trade policies and political pressure are directly influencing Apple's manufacturing strategy, pushing the company to increase its investments in the US supply chain to avoid potentially devastating tariffs and to maintain a positive relationship with the government. So, I don't know. There you go. But anyway, I'm not totally against tariffs. I don't know if they work or not. You know, I think socialists in the 70s would have said we need tariffs on exports and imports. So I don't know about exports, probably not, but we'll see, really. But then it's a tariff on something that's probably a massive. The exports probably a massive profit margin. You know, I think Apple's like 70%. I'm talking about Nvidia now. I'm just asking what Nvidia's profit margin, and they don't say exactly on this H20 chip. But their gross margin is exceptionally high, often exceeding 70% in its data center business, which includes its AI chips. And that's sort of the same as Apple, iPhones, etc. This means that for every dollar of revenue, more than 70 cents are gross profit. Um, and so if you're putting in a 15% tariff on it, then you're still making like 55% profit margin. But the deal is still considered a positive for Nvidia's profitability. The company had previously been barred from selling these chips entirely, which resulted in a $5.5 billion charge on its books due to inventory it could not sell. The ability to sell these chips, even with a 15% cut, turns a major loss into a new revenue stream. As one analyst put it, it's better to take a 15% haircut on billions in sales than to hand the entire market to any foreign rivals. I've just asked who banned it. It seems that the Biden admin were the first to set the rules aimed at restricting China's access to advanced computing chips and semiconductor manufacturing equipment for security and concerns, really. The goal was to prevent these technologies from being used to enhance China's military and AI capabilities. In response, Nvidia specifically designed a less powerful chip, the H20, to comply with these rules and continue selling to the Chinese market. So this is why they came up with the H20. It wasn't as cutting edge as their other chip. Trump administration later took a stricter stance. In April, it expanded existing export controls to specifically block the sale of even these redesigned chips over national security concerns. So there you go. This ban effectively halted the company's sales of these specific chips in China. The current deal, which allows these companies to resume sales in exchange for a 15% revenue share, is a reversal of the Trump admin's own policy from earlier this year. The decision follows months of lobbying by Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang, and a meeting with President Trump. The CEO of Nvidia is Jensen Huang, and he's an American citizen. He was born in Taiwan, moved to the US when he was a child. He grew up in Oregon, attended Oregon State Uni for his bachelor's degree, and later earned a master's degree from Stanford University. He co-founded Nvidia in 1993 and has been its CEO ever since. Well, that's pretty incredible, you know. I know them for GPUs, for your graphic cards, really, I think. Well, he is a prominent American business leader. He has maintained strong ties to Taiwan and has a global perspective on business, which is a key factor in his approach to the US and China trade discussions. Yeah, well, I suppose him being born in Taiwan, he might be sort of anti-China politically, but you can't tell really, you know. I'm not making a comment one way or the other. And then I just asked, you know, just to see. He's not considered a security concern in the same way that a foreign government agent or a company with direct military ties might be. However, his actions and public statements have become a central part of the heated debate over national security and US technology exports to China. He's a key figure because he's been doing stuff like lobbying the US government. He's been long active lobbyist on behalf of Nvidia's business interests in China, defending China market access. He has consistently argued that restricting US chip sales to China is counterproductive. Balancing business and geopolitics. He sees China as a crucial market for Nvidia's growth and has been willing to navigate complex geopolitical landscapes to maintain a foothold there. So this has led to some criticism from those who believe his business interests are at odds with US national security priorities. So yeah, there you go. Well, that's all for now. I just having a look at that. Heard about this morning. The first ever export tariff, it seems, from the USA, brought in by Trump. So taxes all over the place. Trump's bringing in taxes. I'm not totally against them, other tariffs against the mega rich or against importers. Importers. Yeah, if it creates jobs in the USA or whatever, the home market. We might go back to that all over the West, who knows? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, it's the opposite of Reaganomics, really, isn't it? The free trade, etc. Okay,